We're going to talk about a minute here on the NCE mini panel, installing one, and we're going to hook up some push buttons, or in this case trigger switches, single pole, double throw, center off, momentary contact. Or you can use regular momentary spring-loaded contact buttons that are readily available. Last time I looked from Radio Shack, I've got a box of about 100 of them from another layout. I don't think I'm going to run out anytime soon. But there's 3 ways to throw a switch using the NCE system. First, you can throw it from select accessories on this controller. The next way to do it is through hooking up a momentary contact button to one of the 30 steps. In this case, we'll start with step 1 in a minute, and we will take step 1 and 2 to throw switch 380 open and closed. There's a myriad of things that you can do with this mini panel besides that. I have several ladders set up, macros set up to run the ladders. Each input has 4 steps. You can link inputs together. So you could have 8, 9, you basically would go 4. If you link one, then you'd have 7 steps. If you linked another one, you would have 10 steps. So there's endless possibilities in what you could do. This is the setup plug-in, and as you can see right now, it's on the startup part, NCE mini panel. You use your controller to program that computer device. Now, this is the cab bus. This fits right into the cab. This is your flat 6-wire. Make sure to make them straight. I make my own up. And then you have your cab bus. If I had this was going to continue on the cab bus, it would just plug in there and go to the next device, either an RJ12, an AIU01, or another mini panel, whatever it's going to hook to. But that's the beauty part about the cab bus. The main thing is to make sure your wires are straight, and that's, you can use the back of the, I'm sorry here, that little line keeps thumbs up, thumbs down on the cord so that you don't make mistakes, ensuring that the wire is straight. The terminology wire straight is something that we'll have to cover at another time. I.e., the easiest thing for me to say at this point, if you go to Radio Shack and buy a phone wire cable, it won't work. One of the plugs has to be cut off and turned over and reconnected. Because phone wires are not straight. And basically, I'm saying the white wire is always on the same side. So after we get this hooked up with 3 ways to throw the switch, you can also throw it from the dispatches panel by clicking on the icon. In this case, this is the little panels. These panels are currently hooked up to switches on the right-hand side. So if I reach up here and I trigger the switch, you'll see it threw to the open position. If I trigger it back, it throws in. So you say, well, why am I changing this? The problem is the little quirk with the NCE system. These two are both on the same decoder, and on a switch it, if you use the right-hand side to trigger the switch, it does not show up in the system. So if I throw this switch, but the way it's currently hooked up, it'll throw, but I won't see it on the dispatches panel. And some of these, the 2 black lines indicate main line. Actually, the second line, black line that has the switch in it, this one is a siding on the main. The other one is love pass, and that can be used as a diversionary route to get trains. So dispatcher has control over these. Now, like I said, these are single pole, double throw, momentary contact center off switches. And that's one way you can do it. These are push button switches. I think everybody in the hobby's probably seen these at one time. If I push this button, this is hooked through a mini panel already that's directly up underneath here. As you can see, it's all hooked up and most terminals are used on it. And this is set up in a matrix so that, let's say I throw this switch, watch what happens. The one at the top closed and the other one opened up. If I throw this one, one will stay open, but two opened up. If I throw this one, three opens up, and all 1, 2, and 3 are open. But if I want to come past, push this one, it straightens them all up. That's an example of the macro capabilities of the mini panel, I think. And that takes care of this ladder, which is right here. Now, each individual gonna do things his way. I'm totally aware of this, but I'm a person who's doing away with panels. These are here because you're looking at 60 inches in height. Well, that number of 308 is 60 inches above the floor, so most of us, including me, cannot see the points. Makes it kind of tough to run trains when you constantly got to go getting points. You can see the trains, you can see your trains operate, but you can't see the switches and which way they're thrown. So by putting the little mini panels in with the lights, and those are LED lights working off of the switches on a tortoise switch machine to drive that, it is a DC system totally separate from the railroad. It's about right now about 3 or 4 volts. Put a little resistor on the LED, so when you throw things, they'll show up. That's what those are for. So if I'm going to the trouble to put the LEDs, I'll put the little switch to throw things, so the people who operate at this level don't have to go digging around to figure out which switch and so forth. Now, just as an example, this has nothing to do with the mini panel. This is the second level of the layout, and there is no panels for these. You throw them with the controller, or they're thrown from the dispatcher's panel, and that's it. There's no need for me to get into creating panels everywhere that somebody has to look down, figure out where the switch is on the panel. All they have to do is select accessory 215, and it's either open or closed, and it throws the crossover. That's 216. Sorry, the little indicator got taken off, but those are going to go somewhere else anyway. Eventually that number will end up right there on the piece of fascia board when we get it in, so we can eliminate that kind of a little bit of an eyesore in the middle of the railroad. But that is a mini panel, effective use of it, using 2 different types of switches. I've already fixed these over here. Now these momentary contact switches are working off of the mini panel, no longer off of the right side of the switch it. You live and learn with this system, and I've been at it for over 16 years. And when I started building this railroad 4 years ago, I built this part first, and then I realized when I started putting a panel in, I was not seeing what was happening on these switches. Read into it a little bit, got on the chat room, and I found out real quick, on a switch it, you cannot use the right hand side to throw the switches if you want to see what the switch is doing. So these momentary contact switches are just like these little red buttons, and they all are programmed through the mini panel that connects in through the cab buses I showed you before, so that the instructions go to the decoder on the switch. Back to this mini panel here. NCE this is on the cab bus. A mini panel is just the same thing as this, a cab. This has to have a cab address. Just as this device right here must have a cab address. This is an AIU-01, auxiliary input unit, and following NCE's advice, my AIUs are numbered from 50 to 56. That's how many I have at the current time. Probably need a few more to take care of the third level for detection purposes that haven't been done, but there's plenty of room. So you have 63 cab addresses in an NCE system. So right now I'm using 50 through 56 for my AIUs. This device has been given the cab address 41. My other mini panel has been given the address 40. You do that right here by hitting enter and then setup to configure, and you see cab address and it's flashing, or you would enter 41. The default is 2. You want to get it off the default, believe me. Remember, with the NCE, addresses 2 through 18 are radio cab addresses. Don't recommend that you use the numbers 2 or 3 if you can get away with it. 4 through 18 would be preferable. Too many things come as a default to 3, and the default for all the cabs is 2. So we hit escape and went back to this level. The next thing I'll use here when I get to it in this video will be set up for the switch command. But as you see, the lead right here from the cab bus is just plugged into UPT. If you go back to the picture on the AIU, auxiliary input unit underneath I just showed you, you will note that there is a plug open just like this one is on it. This will get plugged into that on the AIOU because that's at the end of my cab bus, and then this whole unit will get mounted up underneath the table. But for the purposes of demonstration today, I left it out so everybody could see how we're going to do it. This is really simple. So I'm going to go get some wiring ready and come back to it, and we'll work our way through. Okay, so now we've run our wires to the single pole double throw momentary contact center off switch, and that's these 2 wires right here, and they're hooked to terminals 1 and 2. This is the center position on the switch. This is your ground. Then we'll go over here to setup, and we're going to input, so we'll press 1, and we're going to input number 1. For my purposes, I always hit the 1, enter, step 1, that's the first one of 4 steps, and we're going to have an accessory, and the accessory number in this case is 370, enter, and here you see normal or reverse. In our case, we're going to put 1 normal. Now you see it went to step 2. At this point, I'm not going to be doing any more with this switch. It doesn't tie to another switch. But if there was a second switch down the road that I wanted to throw, I could select accessory, then switch, say, 371 in whatever position I wanted it in, 1 or 2. Step 3 could be another switch, and it could be down the road. So you could see you could set up a whole ladder by doing it. In this case, all I'm going to do is hit escape. Now, here we can go test operation, and we can hit enter. I just heard the switch run. I'll take you down there and we'll take a look. This is the switch we were just connecting. It's the Rollin branch line off of the main. It's in the number 2 position. As you remember, we were in the video, I had set it for 1. We made a little mistake on the numbering, so we went back and fixed that while we were off air here. It's actually switch 380. Sorry about that. So we went and made it 380, and we have programmed the number 2 step to the number 2 position. So this switch control the little panel with this switch controls this switch here now to throw from a mini panel. So we'll go back here and we'll hit end of test, and we'll just go back through the second step, which we didn't do on the video, and you hit setup and it's input, and we hit 2, enter, step 1, it's set for step 1, we hit enter, we hit accessory 1, accessory number is 380, enter, and we want the second one to be 2 reversed, and that's all we're going to do. We're not going to any step 2 or anything else, so we'll hit escape. So we will go to 3, input number 2, and hit enter, and I hear that switch throw. So I'm going to hit escape and test. We can go back and we can go to test operation, input number 1, and I hear it throwing the other way. So we can sit here and test it, and it's going back and forth, and that one is completed. So now, through programming this to being cab number 41, hooking it up to the cab bus cable, making your simple connections, we can control a switch machine from the controller thing. So to throw this from the controller, we'll unplug this controller from the thing, from the mini panel, plug it into the thing, UPT panel, and now we come up with the regular view. So if we select accessory 380, enter, it says now normal, which way do you want to go? So let's hit 2, and I hear the switch throwing. If I go select accessory again, a little trick for the book here. So all you people using NCE systems and throwing switches, don't hit enter. Just hit, because the number's already there, just hit it again, and guess what? It's throwing back the other way. So it's select accessory. If I hit it again, it's throwing the other way. As long as that, when you hit it, if it's the number you want, all you have to do is hit it again. Now, if I want to throw this switch right here, this is switch number 280. So I come over here and I go select accessory 280, oops, wrong number. That's good example here. We hit the wrong number, and I'm kind of doing this left-handed, so it don't work real well. We come down here and you just hit escape. With an NCE controller, the escape button is very important. Select accessory 280, enter. Now which way we want to go? Well, it's in the normal position. See if I can get that reflection out. It's in the normal position, which is closed, so we want to go to number 2. Now that threw both ends of the crossover. You can run 2 motors off of one decoder. There's enough voltage and everything to do this. You don't need to have 2 decoders for these 2 things. 2 switch machines, you got to have 2 tortoises, but they can both be controlled off of the same decoder. Either off of a switch 8, which will allow you to program 8 different switches or 8 different crossovers, or a switch IT, which will allow you to do 2 switches. So now if I want to throw that back, all I need to do is, see, it said 280. I don't need to do this. I could do this, and it's now reversed, and I could hit 1, which is the way the manual tells you to do it, but I can just hit select accessory. The number comes up, I hit it again, it's going to 2. As you see it move. I hit it again, comes up, select accessory, hit it again, it goes back. You can also do this on cab 06 for all you people who may have one, and you hit the accessory, then the you have to hit the escape and then select accessory, but you hit select accessory twice. You have to make 3 moves. So anyway, that's just a little lesson on throwing switches and doing it with the NCE system. And again, there's no panels. See, don't need panels. Makes it very simple. Came up with the unique system of just putting the number right there for the operators, and that's crossover 280. It's just that simple. And in the case of where we have split tracks, the number down here for this crossover is 269. The number for this switch right here is located right above, and it's 281. It's a little education system, but once someone's been here once, they get to know it all. So this is the final installation of the Cab 41 mini panel underneath the layout, and as I explained, this now becomes the last item on the cab bus on this side of the railroad. And as you see, it's plugged into the AIU01 device, which is then plugged into the back of the UPT panel, which is right here on the front of the fascia. So this kind of concludes it. It all worked. We have all the 5 switch machines that needed to be controlled. Turnout and crossovers needed to get off the to where they'd be recognized off the system, so we can continue on to the next adventure with this, and we'll get into how do you hook up a switch IT, a switch 8, how do you hook up an AIOU01 and a BD20 and put that all into the sensor table. This is all plug and play. There's nothing really complicated with it if you follow the instructions.